My name is Sarah. I live with my husband, John, and our son, Michael. John and I have been married for 10 years. We were happy, or at least we used to be. Our life seemed perfect. A lovely house, a garden, and a stable life. John is hard-working, a caring father, and a devoted husband. 6 months ago, we hired Alex. Alex works for us, helping with household chores and maintaining the garden. He also assists with taking care of Michael. Alex is polite, reserved, and often smiles. Initially, I didn't think much about him. He was simply there to help. One evening, I came home late from work. John wasn't home, as he was still at his office. Michael was already asleep, and Alex was sitting in the kitchen, reading a book. I joined him, and we started talking. He shared bits about his life, how he moved from another city for work, and lived alone here. We spoke for hours that night. Things began to change after that. One evening, while John was away on a 3-day business trip, Alex and I had dinner together after Michael went to bed. Later, I sat with Alex again, and we talked and laughed. I felt at ease with him, something I hadn't felt in a while. Then, something unexpected happened. I kissed him. It was a small kiss, but it felt monumental. I immediately pulled away and apologized, calling it a mistake. He didn't say anything. He just looked at me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I felt overwhelmed with guilt and kept thinking about John. I loved him, and I knew I had crossed a line. I promised myself it wouldn't happen again, but a few days later, it did. This time, the kiss was longer and more passionate. I didn't stop it. I felt torn. I loved John, but something was pulling me toward Alex. It felt uncontrollable, like a fire burning inside me. Days passed, and life seemed normal. John returned from his trip, and our daily routines continued. I cooked meals. We watched TV, and we played with Michael. On the surface, everything looked fine, but I carried the weight of my secret. Alex remained part of our household. Around John, everything appeared normal. But when John wasn't there, Alex and I exchanged glances that spoke volumes. We didn't discuss what had happened, but it lingered in the air. Guilt consumed me. Whenever I kissed John or spent time with Michael, thoughts of Alex haunted me. My secret loomed large, growing heavier by the day. I lay awake at night, plagued by what I had done, and debating whether to confess. Then I discovered that John was hiding something too. I saw messages on his phone from another woman. At first, I was furious. How could he betray me? But then, I realized I was no better. I had also betrayed him. We were both living lies. One night, I made a decision. I couldn't bear the weight of my secret any longer. After dinner, when Michael was asleep and Alex had left for the day, I sat down with John. "John, I need to tell you something," I said, my voice trembling. He looked at me, confused. "What is it?" "I've been seeing someone," I admitted, unable to meet his gaze. I told him everything about Alex, the kisses, and my guilt. Tears streamed down my face as I apologized and told him I still loved him. John was silent for a long time. Finally, he said, "I've been seeing someone too." His words stunned me. He confessed that it had started months ago, unintentionally, but it happened. We both sat there, grappling with our pain and mistakes. The truth was out, and there were no more secrets. We talked, really talked, for the first time in years. We discussed our marriage, our faults, and our hopes for the future. In the end, we realized we still loved each other and didn't want our marriage to end. We agreed to make changes. The next day, we let Alex go. It was difficult but necessary. We also decided to attend marriage counseling to rebuild our relationship. Months passed, and though it wasn't easy, we slowly began to heal. John and I worked on our marriage, and step by step, we found our way back to each other. We started spending more time together, talking openly and honestly. It wasn't perfect, but it was a step in the right direction. After Alex left, the house felt strangely quiet, almost too quiet. Michael missed him and asked where Alex had gone. I told him Alex had found a new job. While it wasn't a complete lie, it wasn't entirely the truth either. That was one of the hardest parts, keeping the truth from my son. John and I began attending counseling once a week. At first, it was tough. We had to discuss our mistakes, feelings, and the reasons behind our actions. The counselor asked challenging questions that forced me to reflect on things I wanted to avoid. "Why did you kiss Alex?" the counselor asked me. I struggled to find an answer. I loved John, but I still kissed Alex. Why had I done it? I explained that I had felt lonely. John was always busy with work, and it felt like we were living separate lives. Alex made me feel noticed and valued. John looked hurt when I said that, but it was the truth, and we both needed to face it. Rebuilding trust was difficult. After I confessed about Alex, John didn't trust me the same way. Though he didn't say it outright, I could sense his doubt. If I came home late or spent time on my phone, his gaze lingered with suspicion. I couldn't blame him. I didn't fully trust him either, especially after discovering the other woman. The counselor reminded us that trust takes time and patience. I wanted things to go back to the way they were, but I knew it wasn't that simple. I worked hard every day to show John that I was sorry, that I loved him, and that I was committed to making things right. John made an effort to. He started coming home earlier from work, and we had family dinners more often. We spent weekends together, going to the park, watching movies, or simply playing with Michael. It wasn't easy, but we were both trying. One night, after Michael was asleep, I finally asked John about the woman he had been seeing. I had avoided asking before because I was scared of what he might say. But now, I needed to know. "Who was she?" I asked. John looked uncomfortable, but eventually answered. "Her name is Lisa. She works at my office." Hearing her name felt like a stab in the chest. I didn't want to know more, but I forced myself to ask, "Do you still see her?" "No," John replied quickly. "It ended before you told me about Alex." That gave me some relief, but the pain lingered. John had been seeing someone else while I stayed home, caring for Michael and believing everything was fine. It wasn't fair, but then again, I had done the same thing to him. After a moment of silence, John spoke again. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I made a mistake. I love you, and I don't want to lose you. I love you too," I said, and I meant it. We both had made serious mistakes, but we both wanted to repair our marriage. Months went by, and things began to improve. We worked on rebuilding trust, spent more time together, and committed to being transparent. We created new rules for our relationship. If something bothered us, we had to address it immediately. No more secrets, no more hiding. Michael seemed happier too. He stopped asking about Alex and enjoyed having both his parents around more often. We played games, went to the zoo, and made happy memories as a family. Still, there were difficult days. Sometimes, I would think about Alex and feel a pang of guilt. Other times, I wondered if John ever thought about Lisa. But we didn't let those thoughts consume us. Instead, we focused on building a better future. 1 year after everything happened, John and I took a trip together, just the two of us. Michael stayed with my sister, and we spent a weekend in a small beach town. It was the first time we had been alone together in years. The trip was exactly what we needed. We walked on the beach, had dinner at cozy restaurants, and talked about our dreams for the future. On our last night, John surprised me. He pulled out a small box from his pocket. Inside was a new wedding ring. "I want us to start fresh," he said. "A new ring for a new beginning." Tears filled my eyes. I hadn't expected this. I thought about everything we had been through, all the mistakes, the hurt, and the pain, but here we were, given another chance to start over. "I love you, John," I said softly. "I love you too, Sarah," he replied. We left the past behind us and focused on the future. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Now, John and I are closer than ever. Our marriage isn't perfect, but it's real. We trust each other, communicate openly, and never keep secrets. Michael is growing up quickly. He's happy, and he loves spending time with us. He doesn't remember much about Alex, and I'm grateful for that. I want him to grow up in a home filled with love and honesty. Sometimes, I reflect on the past and the mistakes we both made, but I don't dwell on those thoughts. We have a new life now, a stronger and better one. I'm thankful for that. John and I still attend counseling occasionally to keep our relationship strong. We've learned that a marriage takes constant effort, but it's always worth it. Looking back, I see how close we came to losing everything, but instead, we found a way to heal and move forward. I'm not proud of what I did with Alex, and I know John isn't proud of what he did with Lisa, but together, we've built something better, a life full of love, trust, and resilience. We learned from our missteps and grew stronger because of them. Life is full of hurdles, and marriage is one of the greatest trials of all. But if you truly love someone, if your love is genuine, you can overcome anything. John and I are living proof of that. Now, I feel content and at ease. Our home is filled with love and laughter, and that's all I've ever wished for. We're not flawless, but we're authentic, and that's what truly counts. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share.